Hi everyone, my name's Abul and welcome back to CRTV powered by City Realtor. Today I want to talk about all the things that you should be doing when you are looking to buy a new flat. I'll be talking about what questions you should be asking and what to look out for at the flat itself. And the reason I'm saying flats is because I saw someone do a video recently about all the red flags when you go to buy a house. And I thought to myself, that's a good video. However, it made me think, when you're going to buy a flat, there's a few more other things that you should be considering. So let's start at the very beginning. If it's a buy-to-let purchase, the first thing I do is break down the deal on my buy-to-let calculator. The link is in the description. If it's not a buy-to-let purchase and you are looking to live in the property, keep watching, this will still apply to you. So once you have decided whether the numbers stack up or not, there's 4 questions that I ask the agent right off the bat. And those questions are, how many years left on the lease? What is the service charge? What is the ground rent? And are there any major works planned? And like I said, these questions are specific for flats. If it's a house, same questions don't apply. I mean, there are rare instances where you will have a service charge for a house, but generally that's not the case. Regarding the ground rent and the service charge, as a buy-to-let landlord, you need to figure out whether this is profitable enough for you. And if you are looking to live there, you need to figure out if you can afford it. Last thing you want is to buy the property and all the profits being eaten up by the service charge. Sometimes the service charge might be unusually high. And the agent will probably tell you this, but it could be because there's already a major works being paid off. So it's good to get clarification from the agent or the seller. And that brings us to the major works. Whenever you're buying a flat, you must always ask if there's any major works being planned. This is because there might be something being planned and it's not taken place yet. And don't get me wrong, it's not wrong for you to pay it because you will probably benefit from whatever they're doing there. You just need to factor that cost in with the price of the property. And what do I mean by major works? So this comes up with a lot of ex-local properties because they're older and they need to be brought up to modern standards. And it could be things like, putting in lifts or changing the lifts because they're so old, or putting in new security door systems. However, a lot of new buildings also saw a lot of major works happening because they had to change the faulty cladding. I mean, this kind of information does come out eventually, especially when it gets to the solicitors. But if you're like me, you want to know straight away to avoid wasting time, as it may not be feasible in the end. And regarding the number of years left on the lease, you want to know this because you want to know if you will need to renew it at any point. When it gets under 80 years, it gets tricky because the cost of renewing a lease increases dramatically. That's why to sell leasehold properties under 80 years can be quite hard. Sellers generally have to factor in the cost of the renewal of the lease. Also, mortgage lenders don't like it if it's under 80 years. They may refuse to lend as a result. Okay, so that's all the questions you need to ask before you get to the property. Once you're at the flat, it's probably good to take a trained pair of eyes with you, as you want to know if there's anything that will potentially cost you a lot of money. So here are some things that you need to look out for that can potentially cost you a lot of money. Firstly, you need to figure out whether the bathroom and the kitchen will need refurbishing, because those are the 2 most expensive rooms in a flat. Another thing is the electrics in a property. You want to find out if they will need changing, and that could be a big cost that you're looking at. If the property has gas and a boiler, then you probably want to figure out how much life is left in that boiler. If it's very old, it may need changing, and that is another couple of grand worth of cost at least. Also, here's a weird one, but check all rooms have heating, because I've seen properties where most rooms have it, but maybe 1 or 2 don't have heating. And if they don't, then you'd have to put a new heater in there. If it's gas central heating, you'll have to bring in the pipe work, and it can be an extra cost that you didn't see coming. And here's another weird one, but try and figure out if any of the rooms have been cut up. Because if it's a 2-bed you're going to buy, but it was actually originally a large 1-bed, then you have to figure out if the pricing is correct. And how do I figure these things out? Well, like I said, you need a trained pair of eyes. Sometimes it's got to do with where the windows are positioned. Sometimes I look at where the lights are and things of that nature. Other things I pay attention to is things like the state of the building. Will it be appealing to tenants? What are the state of the windows? Because if you need to change them all, then that could be a big cost. What are the neighbors like? Are they noisy? Do they seem like troublemakers? Is there a lift in the building? Especially if the property is on a higher floor, you need to consider that that may be harder to let than one with a lift. Something I forgot to mention, but I would usually factor this in even before I analyze a deal, and that is whether it's a concrete block and how many floors does the building have. If it's a concrete block more than 6 stories, and that's including the ground, so ground with 5 floors above it, then it's more than likely that you may not get a lending on it. So to avoid wasting time, I may not even go to view it. And even if you're a cash buyer, you need to consider that at some point you may be selling this property as well, and you will narrow yourself down to only cash buyers. Therefore, the price point that you're buying at needs to reflect that. So those are all the things that I look out for when I'm going to look at flats. I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you on the next video.